Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be doing a little bit of a catch-up. We're going to be going through stuff that we've watched and played over the past several months and just kind of talk about that. That's stuff that we haven't actively talked about on the podcast yet. Some of those things we might talk about in more detail in another segment. This is basically all we're going to get to on them. But we're going to catch up on some of that stuff. Besides that, we've also got our On the Horizon segment where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we also have our On Beat segment. We're going to go over 3 trailers that came out this week. But let's get started with our On the Horizon segment. On the Horizon. On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so, and we're going to start things off with One Piece. Now you're saying, One Piece? That season 2 just came out. No, I'm talking about the anime One Piece, which has now become seasonal. So before, One Piece would air just every week since it debuted, with like brief moments when it would go on hiatus or something, but it didn't have seasons. Now it's become seasonal, so now it's going to do like a seasonal arc, finish up, and then wait until the next arc is ready and then do that. That's kind of like the new strategy for the One Piece anime. And so One Piece is returning on Sunday, April 5th on Crunchyroll. They're going to the Elbaf arc, which was hinted at in the live action one. We got to see the giants in the live action one, and this is kind of where that comes back into play in the story. Is it going to be
I kind of like thought it's funny that in the last season of live action, they meet the giants. Usopp mentions wanting to go to Elbaf, and then they don't actually go there until like forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's on Sunday, April 5th on Crunchyroll. Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord is coming on Monday, April 6th to Disney+. The Boys is returning for its final season on Wednesday, April 8th on Amazon Prime. That's something we're going to be talking about later. We won't be talking about it until it's done. But basically, like the week it concludes, that's going to be our topic for the podcast.
I mean, we've covered
Unless there's a Nintendo Direct. That's the
right.
That's the thing.
We've covered every season. We covered both seasons of Gen V, so yeah, we're definitely going to cover this.
Yeah. The Testaments. This is a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. Is coming on Wednesday, April 8th to Hulu. Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair. It's a limited series reuniting almost the entire cast. Is coming on Friday, April 10th to Hulu. Outcome, which is a movie that Jonah Hill directed that stars Keanu Reeves, is kind of like a actor he's kind of on the verge of being canceled, I guess. Like he's got like a lot of people are not very happy with him, and he's kind of trying to cope with that and deal with that. That's coming on Friday, April 10th to Apple TV+. And that is it for our On the Horizon segment. And now we're going to move on to On Beat. On Beat. As I mentioned this week, we've got 3 trailers we're going over, and we're going to start things off with Backrooms, which is a A24 horror film.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is very like creepypasta, very kind of that like internet-born horror tropes and genre. It's literally based on a story that was like came on 4chan, being directed by Kane Parsons, YouTuber and musician. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Backrooms looks like really interesting. It's just the concept behind it of finding this hidden set of rooms, but then they go on forever and they form a maze and they branch into like all these different directions or patterns. Is just like, I don't know, something about that is like just viscerally creepy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like the fear of it is the idea of like the initial curiosity and then going in too far and just getting lost and trapped forever.
I think it's like the same thing that makes makes like the ocean scary.
Right, yeah.
The ocean is like unfathomably deep.
Yes.
And you don't know what's in there, and if you go down far enough, it's just dark and you can't see anything, and there's things in there, but you don't know what's in there.
You may never be able to return.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very similar kind of fear. It's like there's just too much, you know? I have a similar phobia with like outer space, for example, you know? The idea of being in space is like so lonely, and so the idea that you're just in this vast emptiness and you're just there and you're lost is like a horrifying thing, and that's like that's being explored in this. From what we've seen in the trailer, they don't really show anything decidedly horror. It's more like ominous. There's just like an ominous vibe.
It's an ominous vibe. It's a very like dreamlike.
Mm-hmm.
So far, at least for a trailer, it looks like it's something that doesn't rely on traditional horror tropes, right? It kind of like relies on the power of the idea itself.
Yeah. It's all atmosphere.
Yes. Looks good to me.
That is Backrooms. Our next trailer was for Masters of the Universe. We previously had a trailer for this. We discussed it. But this trailer, like, we had little glimpses of things. Like, we saw Skeletor's face in the last trailer.
Yeah.
But we actually get Skeletor talking in this trailer. I'm not sure if we did or didn't see Evil in. If we did, it was such a slight moment that it didn't even matter. They cast
Jared Leto, then went all out to make sure that he didn't look or sound like Jared Leto.
Yeah. It's also like Evil in. Like, I don't even know if she was in the first trailer. If she was, it was such a like inconsequential.
I don't remember her from
the
first
that
trailer.
Like we don't see it, but here you see more of her. You get like a little bit of a bit of her personality in there, like her character's personality.
Yes.
And you get kind of more in the first trailer. It was very much like, okay, I need to return to my planet. Look how magical it is. And here they're showing like, oh, he's returned to his planet. Everything's destroyed.
It shows what happened to Eternia in He-Man's absence.
Yeah.
Right? I like the fact that even though like he's on Earth, it's not like a situation where like he was sent to Earth as a baby and he doesn't like know his heritage. He fully knows the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. I thought, okay, it does seem to be a smarter movie than I would like have expected. And it definitely like has reverence for the source material. Like this looks like Masters of the Universe. And they embrace every goofy, silly thing about it.
It's kind of like One Piece in that way. Where
it's
like,
yeah,
that was one of the things that worked for One Piece. One of the things that made it like seemingly impossible to adapt, One Piece, I mean, is that like it's just so weird and so kind of cheesy and cartoony and stuff. Like, how do you make that work? Well, you make it work by just embracing it and going with it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the same mentality it seems like they went for here with Masters of the Universe.
Yes, exactly. Which the people who want to see this movie, which let's be honest at this point, that's aging millennials like you and me. But
the nostalgia that gets us through the horrors of our lives.
Yeah, the nostalgia that gets us through. That's what I want to see. Also, it's redemption for that awful 1987 film with Dolph Lundgren. So much of current genre movie just seems to be like redeeming our childhoods. It's like, sorry for that shitty Mario movie. Here's a Mario movie that more resembles what you wanted.
Yeah.
Here's a He-Man movie that more resembles what you wanted back when you were freaking 8 years old.
Finally getting to it.
Yeah.
But that's the Masters of the Universe trailer. Then lastly, we got what is clearly the biggest trailer of the three. We got the second trailer for Supergirl, a much better trailer than the first trailer.
Yes.
When we talked about the Superman movie, we talked about the Supergirl cameo in it, and I remember telling you that sold me on Supergirl. Like, I've been super hyped for Supergirl since that cameo. The first trailer came out, and it kind of almost diminished it a little bit. It's like, yeah, I dig Guardian vibes. It does have very Guardians of the Galaxy type vibes to it. It's like, I dig that, but like, at the same time, it wasn't really bringing anything of its own to the table in the first trailer.
It didn't really like spotlight too much.
It just didn't really do much for me, like the first one.
Well, it did like spotlight too much of like the film, you know, like it was very basic.
It was kind of like, cool, this exists.
Yeah. This is like a more fleshed out, it gave you like a general sense of the story of what's happening. It gave you like the more emotional scenes with Kara to back that up.
And it gave us like actual Lobo.
Yes. And
not just like a split second of him. You know?
Yeah, we get to see more Jason Momoa's Lobo, which is fantastic.
We get kind of a gist of like what the plot is, you know, like,
it's like,
more going.
Aren't you that ditz from the bar? It's like, funny, that's what I've been calling you.
And he said,
this whole time. Touche. Yeah.
This really brought what I wanted from the trailer initially, You know, from the first trailer, this is
Yeah.
what I wanted to get. And now I finally got it with the second trailer. So I'm still hyped. It didn't make me more hyped. It just reaffirmed my hype.
It reaffirmed my hype. Here's the thing. It also reaffirmed how talented of an actress Millie Alcock is. It is a shame that her character had to be recast on House of the Dragon due to the time jump. Because I thought, like, she was amazing in that role.
Well, Emma Darcy's great too, so.
Yeah, Emma Darcy is great too, but yeah, she was amazing in that role. And so far, what I've seen of her is she's just killing it as Kara here, so.
Yeah, like I said, I've been sold since the cameo in Superman.
Yes, same.
That's all I needed. But this is like a much better trailer than the first one, so it definitely like raised my hype levels. Or didn't raise them, but like rejuvenated them, I guess. But that is it for our trailers, and now we're going to move on to our On Tap segment.
What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap.
We don't have anything that we're going into full spoilers for, but we've got a lot of stuff that we've watched or played or whatever over the course of the last couple of months that we're going to kind of go over. I'm going to start things off with quite a few things, but I'm just going to kind of rapid fire them. I don't want to dwell on them too long. Some of them are ones that I'm sure we're going to talk about in more detail later in like a future podcast. And some of them I just kind of want to get through real quick. We probably won't ever hit on them again, but I don't really have too terribly much to say on them. So I'm just going to rapid fire. And start things off with Send Help. This is the most recent movie from Sam Raimi. Just kind of left theaters recently. It's currently available to purchase digitally, but it'll be available to stream, I'm sure, within like a month or so. That's usually how long it takes. Send Help is amazing. I don't want to dwell on it for too long just because we're going to talk about this later, I'm sure. Once this is up on streaming, this is something we're going to talk about.
I'm definitely like going to see it. Where's it ranked for you among Sam Raimi's films?
It's not in the top tier. Like, to me, the top tier of Sam Raimi films is like the Evil Dead trilogy and A Simple Plan. Those are like my top Sam Raimi's. Or like Darkman even, I'd say, is like up there as one of my favorites. It is around the same level as like Drag Me to Hell, which is like very good, but not quite at the top tier for me, you know?
Very mid-tier Sam Raimi.
Yeah, like, but mid-tier Sam Raimi is like amazing, you know?
Right.
You know, you have like lower tier Sam Raimi would be like, I don't know, maybe For Love of the Game, The Gift, stuff like that. That would be like lower tier Sam Raimi, The Oz, The Great and Powerful, you know, stuff like that. That's kind of like the lower tier stuff. I liked all of those. Even like those low tier ones. I still like them. This is definitely kind of in the middle. It's not up there with like Evil Dead, in my opinion, at least. It's not as like subtle and intelligent as A Simple Plan was, in my opinion. But it's right around there with like Drag Me to Hell, which is like just means it's a great theater experience. It's a really fun movie. And one thing I would tell people to do is to see it with other people, because it's the kind of movie where you'll have like a shock moment and then you'll laugh, or something really gross will happen, but you'll be like laughing because it's like going in that Sam Raimi way. It's like just pushing it. It found the line of decency and then it just went like a step beyond that. That's like what Sam Raimi's like really good at when he does horror, is finding like, okay, where is the line where people become uncomfortable? And like, let's just go one step past that, you know? And that's, Send Help does that like really well. Like it's just makes it like a very fun experience. It was like fun watching people like laughing and stuff through the movie when we saw it in the theater, just because either to deal with their own discomfort, you know, like laughing, or just because it was like some crazy thing would happen and it was funny, but also just because there is like a vein of comedy throughout it, as you'd expect also from a Sam Raimi film.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it's good. It is an R-rated movie, so it's more graphic than like Drag Me to Hell. So if you're into kind of that like really graphic, like Sam Raimi style, like that's here, you know, like it's there. It's in this movie. There's an amazing plane crash that just has several moments in it that are just kind of uncomfortably gory in like a Sam Raimi kind of way. But that's Send Help. Next movie I'm going to kind of talk about quickly is Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. This is the new movie from Gore Verbinski, who did like Pirates of the Caribbean. I think he did like Rango as well. He did a few other things, and The Ring, right? Didn't he do The Ring?
You know what? I believe he did.
Well, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. It's not a great movie, but it makes big swings, and that's respectable. It also has this kind of monster towards the end of the movie movie that is like amazing. It is just like a creepy, amazing monster. It's like hilarious and creepy and kind of adorable and like hideous all at the same time. It's great. Plot-wise, the movie kind of really doesn't make too terribly much sense, but I kind of like that about it because it swings for the fences, and there's times where you're watching, it's like, what the fuck am I even watching here? Like, what the fuck is going on? There's a whole thing with like school shootings that just kind of is playing parody at the fact that we just accept them now. But when it happens in this movie, it's like, this is such a tonal whiplash. This is like a South Park bit here, and you're doing it like it's in the middle of this kind of gonzo action movie. It's just kind of weird, but it is a fun movie. It's just a little incoherent.
Interesting. I looked up his IMDb because I want to confirm The Ring. We were right about The Ring. He directed The Ring.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I know it's like he has quite the eclectic, interesting filmography. Among the things he's directed are the Nicolas Cage film, The Weatherman.
Oh.
Mouse Hunt. Remember that movie? And
that's the one where they're all doing the race. Is that it?
That's the one where Nathan Lane, he's a cook, and they're like trying to like get rid of this mouse or something.
Oh, okay.
Gore Verbinski also directed the commercials for the Budweiser frogs.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gore Verbinski also directed music videos for NoFX and Bad Religion. Yeah.
He comes from a punk background. That's cool.
He comes from a punk rock background, yeah. Which probably explains a movie like Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die.
Yeah, definitely. I
think
it's
punk rock vibes.
It's a fun movie. It's a little incoherent, but it's like, he's going for something. He's making swings, and that, at least it's laudable, if nothing else.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Like, I think, like, it's admirable when directors, like, take risks and they do things that are, like, outside of the norm, or the, expected.
Mm-hmm. Next up, I saw All You Need Is Kill. This is an anime adaptation of the light novel of the same name. Had previously been adapted as both a manga and as a Tom Cruise movie, a Hollywood movie called Edge of Tomorrow. So All You Need Is Kill, like the basic idea is it's kind of like a Groundhog's Day story, time loop. And there's like an alien invasion and it's tied to this time loop.
And I guess like they're training these soldiers to fight. And I guess like part of that process is they're just like throwing them against this wall and letting them die over and over and over until they get it right.
Kind of. The thing is with this, every adaptation has like kind of taken lots of liberties, retold the story, had different, lead characters and stuff. This is like almost nothing like, except for like the time loop mechanic, the alien invasion mixed to time loop mechanic is the only thing that really it has in common with like, say, the Tom Cruise movie or even the manga, which are themselves different from each other. But this one, it's kind of it's about people who are doing cleanup. Like there's this giant, the alien invasion thing, this thing happened, there's this like big thing, this like giant like flower-like structure or something, it's massive, and it's just kind of there, and it's not doing anything, and they're working on it, and one day when they're working on it, all of a sudden all these creatures come out and just start killing everybody. And then it becomes like this time loop with this girl. She dies, then she wakes up and it's the beginning of the day again, and she goes through it and she dies, and she wakes up and it's the beginning of the loop again, and she has to kind of figure out how to stop it, how to like get around it. So it's the same, like that premise is the same in all of them, the idea that time loop aspect. But like, it's a very different character. Like it's soldiers in the other versions I've seen. This character is not a soldier. She has to kind of become a soldier, but she was not a soldier at all. That was not what she was doing. Very different art style. It's, I think it's Studio 4C or something. It's an anime studio that kind of has like a weird kind of artistic take on things. Very different art style, like very like wide space between the eyes, very like kind of flat looking. It almost reminds me a little bit like in that distorted visual way of like Iron Flux, like the way the characters looked, like this kind of distortion, like they weren't going for realism at all. They weren't like trying to make this kind of like a sense of things. They were just kind of going for like a more artistic presentation. And that kind of reminds me of that. Lots of bright colors, lots of crazy animation. It was an interesting film for sure. I kind of would rather just see a straight adaptation of the manga, but it's different. Again, you gotta respect people who swing for the fences.
Yep, absolutely.
Next movie I'm going to be talking about is How to Make a Killing. This is the new one with Glenn Powell. We talked about the trailer for this like a while back, but it's basically he's from this family, this very wealthy family, but he is like disinherited because of his mother. His his mother and he were both disinherited. Now his mother's gone, and he finds out that he can inherit this, like, vast fortune, like billions and billions of dollars, but the only way to do it is basically by killing everybody else that's ahead of him in the succession of this family. And in the meantime, he has nothing. Like, all these people, they're in the line of succession for this wealth, but they also have money that's just been given to them all their lives. They have assets. There's, like, an artist who really just sucks and just, you know, never had anybody ever tell him he wasn't good because he is rich and powerful. There's, like, a guy who just does fucking nothing but show up at parties and throw money everywhere. There's just all these different people in this family, and he just decides he's gonna kill them one by one and then inherit the fortune. And it's kind of funny, kind of dramatic, kind of sad. It takes kind of a bit of a dark turn towards the end where it's trying to kind of moralize a little bit. I don't know, but it's an okay movie. It's like a decent kind of art house style. Like, there's a heavy plot device that everything revolves around. That's How to Make a Killing. I also saw The Bride, which is I used to think it was the directorial debut, but it's a theatrical directorial debut of Maggie Gyllenhaal. She actually did another movie straight for streaming before. But The Bride is like her take on The Bride of Frankenstein. It is definitely a visually stunning film that takes a lot of wild swings. Again, gotta respect that. Also gotta give credit to the lead actress. Jessie Buckley is the lead in this. Her role is just insane.
Uh-huh.
They do this weird twist. This happens at the very beginning of the movie, so I'm not really spoiling anything.
I read about this, and yeah it sounds like completely batshit.
Yeah, basically, before she's killed and brought back as the Bride of Frankenstein, she's like kind of quasi-possessed by Mary Shelley.
Yes.
And so she's kind of switching between herself and Mary Shelley. That's what gets her killed, basically. Like, that's how she dies. And then she's brought back, and that's still kind of happening. She's kind of switching wildly between Mary Shelley and the Bride of Frankenstein. And if you think about it, those can't exist in the same space.
That's such a bizarre creative choice.
Yeah. Outside of that choice, which is crazy, because that's not what the movie's about. That's just like a choice within the movie. The rest of the movie, it's very much like a Bonnie and Clyde story. It's kind of weird and wild, and a lot of people didn't like it too terribly much. The theme of the night, though, is they swung for the fences, you know? So, people saying that Mario killed cinema. There's a lot of shit coming out that's taking some wild-ass swings, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that, and I mean, I don't know if The Bride is an example. As far as I know, this movie bombed.
Yeah.
Both critically and commercially.
Yeah. It's not something I would rewatch, but I'm kind of glad I watched it. It's one of those things where you walk out of it, at least for me, and I'm like, I kind of only half grasp what's going on here. I think that's probably the same for Maggie Gyllenhaal, that she probably also only half grasped what was going on there. But I appreciate the wild swings, you know? I appreciate that it was wild and different, and you gotta give credit to Jessie Buckley. Her performance is just batshit insane and crazy and all way over the top and like amazing and like just, it is like an Oscar-worthy performance. But I think it's probably gonna be like just ignored and skipped over when that time comes, unfortunately, because at least she deserves something for that. I also saw Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. I'm gonna be very brief on this. We've talked about Ready or Not on the podcast. I really like that movie. Will got a chance to watch it. He liked it too. We were really into it, talking about the movie, and I think it's, at least from what I've seen, it's the best thing that Radio Silence has done. Ready or Not 2 is not as good. It's still a fun movie. It still has kind of all the pieces of like a good Ready or Not movie, but it just doesn't have the novelty of being the first thing to do it, because we already had Ready or Not 1. So it's kind of just like it's very samey. It's like, okay, yeah, so we're getting more Ready or Not. So if that's all you care about, you just want more Ready or Not, well, you got that. That's here. If you're looking for something that takes like a wild new twist or does something really different with it, or like blows open the story in a way that you weren't expecting, you're not going to get that. This is just more Ready or Not, basically, for better or worse.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's not bad by any means. It's just not like anything new, you know?
Right, yeah.
Project Hail Mary, that's the last thing I'm going to be talking about in my rapid fire here. Good, very good, great even. I think there's some hyperbole going around. Some people are debating, like, is this the best space set movie of the, like, like the last century or crazy talk going around about it. I don't really subscribe to any of that. I don't think it's on that level, but it was a very fun, entertaining movie. Ryan Gosling is like a very likable person. He has a lot of charisma. His character is very fun. You grow attached to him. There's other characters that are interesting, mostly seen through the lens of flashbacks, where you can see, like, because the movie starts, he's already in deep space, basically. Right. And so all the stuff that you see in the trailers about, like, setting up to go on the mission stuff, that's all in flashbacks. So all of that stuff's good. Then he meets, like, an alien character, and they develop a friendship, and he's adorable and fun and very likable, and their chemistry between the two is great. So all of that's good. It is a great time at the movies. I'm not gonna, like, talk about how it's, like, the best space movie ever made or something. Like, I'm seeing some of the hyperbole going around about the movie, but it is definitely recommended. I think it is a very fun movie. It has some surprisingly emotional beats in it too. So, but that's Project Hail Mary. Now we're going to go a little bit more in depth with the next two things we're talking about. So the first one here is something that I have not played. It's not a franchise that I'm particularly interested in myself, but Will is very into.
It is.
So he gets to gush now.
This is one of the all-time greatest gaming franchises of all time. It's Resident Evil. This one, specifically the new one that just came out, Resident Evil Requiem, because I bought it day one. I played through the entire thing.
On Switch 2.
Yeah, on Switch 2, which was a very good experience. I would say there was some stutter, some slowdown in some areas. Did you play it
primarily portable or docked?
Oh, primarily portable.
Okay.
Because I wanted to see the portable experience.
Mm-hmm.
There was some stutter, some slowdown in some areas. I heard that was fixed with the most recent patch, which is like crazy. First, I just want to talk about the Switch version specifically because it feels like Capcom went all out to make it parity with other versions. Obviously, like, I haven't played the PlayStation version to compare myself, but I mean, the game looks very good on the Switch.
It doesn't look lacking, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it doesn't look lacking. Exactly. I didn't play it thinking, like, this is definitely an inferior experience. I didn't play it, like, going, man, I made a mistake. I wish I bought this on PlayStation.
Well, it's like
that never entered my head.
I played the demo for Star Wars Outlaws, and it's maybe the most technically impressive thing on Switch 2 because it does, like, full ray tracing and everything like that. But, like, as I'm playing it, I'm like, man, like, the shadows look really, like, flickery. You can tell where they cut corners and stuff. Like, you can see it. And it's really impressive what they did, but it's like, as you're playing it, you're like, man, like, this is really just not the way to play it. It's impressive that they pulled it off, but it's not the way to play it. This sounds like kind of a different experience where when you're playing it, you're not getting that. Like, you're not ever feeling like something's lacking. It just feels like a solid, thorough presentation, like as if this could have just been a Switch 2 exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's good. The game itself is fantastic. I would say this is like one of the best Resident Evil games in years, probably like since Resident Evil 4, in my opinion, because I really enjoyed Resident Evil 8 Village. I thought Village was fun, but I think this is just a much better realized game than Village is. Village is like, for me, that's a solid B. This was like an A+. Because what they did is they did something really interesting with this version is because the series, at least since 4, has always had this sort of identity crisis of what it wanted to be, whether it wanted to like lean into, did it want to be a horror game or does it want to be like a horror-themed action game?
And 6 was kind of like the worst of that, right? Where it was like...
Yeah, 6 was like, it was like all action, and it was like, it's a really
just kind of schizophrenic almost, like it's just very different parts. It felt disconnected from what I've heard.
Yeah, it's got like 4 different campaigns, and there's like a real like over-reliance on like QTE segments. It looks like a boss fight will happen or something big, intense action scene will happen, and then all of your input just becomes like watching a cutscene where like, it asks you to press random inputs for a QTE. And it's like, oh, okay, this is the gameplay now. That sucks.
And after that, they kind of went back to the drawing board with Resident Evil, right? For 7?
They did. They went back to 7 was a pure horror game. They switched the perspective to first person. They focused more on atmosphere.
And that game was the first one, right? Where like the entire entire game is playable in VR too?
Yep, they supported VR with that one. Yeah, they went all out. They gave you a protagonist that wasn't an action hero. They created a new protagonist for it that carried over into 8. But with 8, they went back and they made it like more action focused again. They tried to keep some of like the horror aspect of 7, but they definitely like made it again like more of an action game. I would say like there was one segment in Resident Evil 8 that I loved that was pure horror. That feels like one small segment in 8 that's like half the game in 9. So Resident Evil 9, they came up with this idea that they were going to do something that like Resident Evil has done numerous times over the past, which is have dual protagonists. It's been a thing in the series since the first entry, but they decided they were going to do something interesting with the dual protagonist mechanic this time. They were going to delegate the two halves or two styles of series to each protagonist. So you got Grace Ashcroft, who is a new character for this. She is sort of like the civilian character. She's an FBI agent, but she's not like
She's not a certified badass.
her gameplay is like all horror. And then you got Leon, who's the returning character for this installment from Resident Evils 2 and 4. And his segments are like all the action stuff. He's the action hero. And it works really well. It's interesting because like when I was playing through the first couple hours of the game, I was noting to you that the Leon sections feel really short. You're Leon for like a minute and then it goes back to Grace. And you spend like a lot of time as Grace. And you do, like up front, you spend like most of like the first few hours of the game as almost like exclusively as Grace. So you get like these very short Leon segments. But then you get to the second half of the game and then you're Leon and you're essentially Leon like almost exclusively the rest of the game until you get to the end of it.
Yeah, it sounds like at least the beginning of the game is very based on like tension and release.
Yes.
So like when you play as Grace, everything's about tension. And then when you play as Leon, everything is catharsis.
Yeah, everything is catharsis. Yeah, when you're Grace, it's all tension. Well, you start out, you literally do not have a weapon. I think you have a gun, but you barely get any ammo for it. So it's literally, you're just trying to avoid everything you can, avoid being seen by everything, trying to figure out like if you can sneak past these enemies, cause like you can't really defend yourself that well. And then Leon, he's got like this gun that just like explodes heads. He can roundhouse kick zombies. He can pick up chainsaws and freaking chainsaw them in half. You know, so like it is like that catharsis, cause once you take control of Leon, you're like, oh yeah, now I can kick your asses. I don't have to be timid.
And it's like the same areas, right? So like you'll go through an area as Grace and then you're basically the same zombies with Leon, but now you can just fucking wipe the floor with them.
Yeah, exactly. And there's
that's kind of interesting. I heard like all the zombies or almost all the zombies have like very unique traits. Like it's not just like, oh, it's another part of the swarm. It's like, oh no, this guy like flips on light switches.
Oh yeah. It's interesting because like, yeah, narratively they came up with a concept of where like, everybody's infected with a new version of the virus, but this virus like lets the zombies retain some of their memories or personality from when they were alive. And so like you have the zombie guy who's like really obsessed with the light staying on, and if you turn it off he will switch it back on. Or you have like the singing zombie, you could hear her singing, and then when she spots you she shrieks and like the room shakes and you're like frozen in place for a minute.
Yeah, so these are all like things that you can learn. They're like they're things you can learn. And so if you know that this guy is going to come and turn on the light switch if you turn it off or something, then you know that that's a way to distract them. Or if you know that this woman's going to sing as she's walking around, then you know how to avoid her by hearing her coming towards you, you know? So it's like, it sounds like they really played into the idea of like, okay, it's kind of like when you, in like bosses in video games where you have to kind of learn the boss to beat them. It kind of sounds like that's like all the zombies are like bosses in their own right, and they all have like their own patterns and their own things, and you have to learn them to figure out how to get past them and stuff.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because horror games rarely affect me like the way they do, but there are sequences in Resident Evil 9 that genuinely gave me anxiety, that like made me anxious the entire time, which I think like that is remarkable in and of itself. I thought, okay, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sold on this. This is A+, and I just like realized as I was saying it, Leon's in the best Resident Evil games, because Resident Evil 2, top tier Resident Evil game of all time, that was like Leon's debut. Resident Evil 4,
commonly considered like the best best in the franchise.
Commonly considered the best in the franchise. Like, that's Leon's return, and now we got Leon in Resident Evil 9, and I think it's one of the best in the franchises. So I think, I don't know, maybe Leon
Wasn't he
games...
in 6 too, though? And
He wasn't 6. We're ignoring that.
But like everybody was in 6, right? Wasn't that just very big Nettie?
Yeah, it was very, it was very everybody is here, like, almost. I think Claire wasn't in that, or Jill, but like...
Super Smash Evil.
Yeah, Super Smash Evil. It's like, wasn't he in 6 too? I'm like, we're ignoring that. Thanks for ruining my narrative.
Anything else to say about Requiem?
No, I think if you're on the fence or if you're considering it, I recommend it wholeheartedly. I'm definitely going to play it again.
And you recommend the Switch 2 version as well?
Yeah, I can easily recommend the Switch 2 version. It ran very well my entire time, and it looked great. I think Capcom did a phenomenal job with it. I think Capcom in general is doing a phenomenal job with like the Switch 2 support.
I've heard mixed things about the new Monster Hunter Stories game. I've heard that kind of.
Yeah, I heard that has performance issues. Hopefully that can be, worked on with patches.
And I'm holding out hope that Pragmata runs great at launch, because that's going to be my first Capcom game for Switch 2.
Nice. Yes, I'm hoping that does too. I'm also looking forward to Pragmata. I think like Capcom's just on a generational run here. So
yeah, they've been since like about the PS4. I think they've been on a comeback. A lot of Japanese companies started faltering during like the PS3 generation.
Oh yeah,
and it seems like some of them are still kind of faltering, but Capcom like came back with a vengeance.
Yeah,
they probably with the PlayStation 4, like maybe halfway through that generation.
Yes,
and they've just been like blasting it out since.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think
so. The rest of Japan, pay attention to what Capcom's doing.
Exactly, just do what they do. But yeah, I think that sums up my thoughts on Resident Evil.
All right, so the next thing, or the last thing we're going to be talking about in our On Tap section is Octopath Traveler 0. I'm a big fan of the Octopath Traveler games. I've played 1 and 2. I haven't beaten 2. I fell off because I got distracted with another game, and it was just too dense with too much stuff going on for me to really jump back into it easily. I might need to like restart it or something. I really don't want to because it's so long, but it's really hard to jump back into, basically. But Octopath Traveler 0 was one that I was pretty much going to skip because this is basically a remake of the mobile game. And I was like, okay, I really have no interest in this. Why are we getting this? Like, I want a real Octopath game. I don't want this garbage mobile bullshit. But I played the demo. The demo had, transferable data, and I liked the other games in the franchise. So I said, okay, I'm going to check this out just to prove that it's garbage. And then I got into it, started playing the demo, finished the demo. Demo's like, okay, you got to stop now. You can transfer it over to a dar save file. And I'm like, okay, I need to get this game now. I was really hooked. I was into it. I still haven't fully beaten the game. I've rolled credits twice. There's one part where you roll credits and you're like less than halfway through the game, basically. And then there's like an ending that kind of feels like you finished the game at that point. But there's actually like another ending. The problem is that this game has, and this is something that a lot of JRPGs have, unfortunately, is you get to that part in the game where it's like, okay, now we're at the end of the game, or now you've gotten your initial ending, but if you want the true ending, well, now you have to like go into masochist mode. And like the difficulty is going to go up like 500,000%. Everything's going to be way harder. You're going to have to use all the items you've been hoarding this whole time just to even have a chance, and that's probably still not going to be enough. And we're not going to give you any other way to replenish those items to make it, dealable. You're just fucked. If you go through these items badly, you're fucked. And so there's always been this thing in games where it's like some people, they hoard these powerful items, these limited items, and other people are like, no, the items are there to be used. You should use them. Well, Octopath Traveler 0 is the game that says, oh, yeah, they're there to be used, so use them. Oh, you use them? Well, now you're fucked.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, I'm at the point of the game now. I've rolled credits, so I finished it, but you can go back in time and reset like a key event that happens at the very end and save a character that had become an antagonist, and you can kind of redeem him by going back in time and like protecting him. And then instead of being the main antagonist of the game, he joins your party and you can take on the real final boss or whatever. And that's where I'm at right now. And I just haven't fought that boss yet because I need to do a lot of prep work. And that's the thing, is that whenever you get to a point in the game where you have to do prep work, it's like a lot of prep work. It's like you could spend hours just adjusting what equipment your characters are wearing and shit. And not because of like style or anything, but because you want them to survive in the battle. And they won't otherwise unless you're like very specific about how you load them out. The problem is that there's like tons of different types of equipment, tons of different types of skills that you can equip. And then amongst those skills, there's like so many different ones. And some of them, it doesn't even make sense that they're different. There was like one ability, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like an ice spell or something. And it was like, oh, this ice spell randomly hits 4 enemies and it does ice damage and it costs 11 mana points or whatever, 11 mana to use or something. And then here's another ability and it costs the exact same amount of mana. It does the exact same amount of damage. It does the exact same amount of hits. It's also ice damage. It also randomly hits enemies, but it has a different name. So it's like, oh, okay. And that happens a lot. That's not like one skill. It's like a lot. So like, not only is it like a pain in the ass, like equipping the skills you need, but like, it just takes longer to do it because there's so many repeats where it's like the exact same skill, but with like 6 different names throughout it or something. And this is done because you have like, it's a skill that's specific to a character. And then once you master that character, you can like learn that skill as like an equipable item that you can give to your other characters. And the problem is that they went like, oh, okay, well, this sorcerer has like an ice skill, but this dancer, we're going to give him basically the same skill, but we can't have him using a sorcerer skill if it's a dancer. So it has to be like a dance ability, even though it does the exact same thing. So that's like one frustration I have with it. Another is that the game is just very inconsistent. And I think a lot of this and the old problem I previously mentioned comes from the fact that this was like a mobile game that was iterated upon, like they gave updates frequently for. And so that leads to inconsistencies, I think. One of the things that kind of drives me nuts is like, you'll go into certain areas and it's like, okay, if you want to further this quest, then you have to talk to this character. You have to walk up to him and talk to him. Sometimes you have to walk up to him and talk to him. Sometimes you start walking up to talk to him and it just takes over and immediately jumps in. So it's like, okay, well, if you're going to do that anyways, then why did I have to talk to the other ones every time I did this? Or like, I could see the character had like a bubble over their head and knew they were the next objective, but there was another character near them that I wanted to go and talk to do something else. I didn't want to quite jump into that quest yet. But because I walked within the vicinity, it automatically jumped in where it wouldn't have otherwise. Like, otherwise I would have had to have talked to the character. So it's like, it's inconsistent. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's very much like, I don't know, that to me, that's like frustrating when I'm playing it. It just feels like there's a lot of like inconsistencies like that. I think, like I said, that comes from the fact that it used to be a mobile game that was adapted. Also,
right.
because it was a mobile game that was adapted, that was like a live service, constantly updated thing, I think in some senses there's too much content in this game. I think a lot of times there's some of the quest lines and stuff are like really good and really strong and really emotional, and some of them just feel like tacked on. Like this, they could have just gotten rid of this and it would have been better for it. So that kind of goes into the inconsistency. There's also too many characters. So Octopath Traveler always had 8 characters. So in Octopath Traveler 1 or 2, there's 8 characters. You can get other characters you can get as like helpers, but like the playable characters has always been 8. And one thing that this game does way better than the past games, because the past games always had a really frustrating thing where like you could only change your party by going to an inn in a town. So you might encounter a guy that like gives you a quest like in the middle of the wilderness or something, but you need like these 2 specific characters in your party in order to activate that quest. And the only way to get them in your party is to head back to town, go to an inn, change your character, your party, and then run back out and find that guy again. And that was really frustrating in the original games. One thing they did that I really like in this game is that you have 8 characters in your party. You have like a front row and a back row, and your front row are attacking and your back row can like, you can equip them with things where they'll do like incidental healing and stuff of other people, or they'll have like other effects and stuff, but you can also swap the rows. So like when, like let's say you have your first character and then you have it, and then you have your 5th character is the one in the line behind them, because it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the back row is 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 is behind 1 and 6 is behind 2. You see what I mean? About like
right.
rows. So let's say it's character 1's turn. It's a turn-based RPG. You can just hit the ZL button or ZR button, I think, and it swaps to that character that was in the back row. And there's like cool stuff you can do with that too, because maybe maybe you have a character that took a lot of damage and you can't really heal them, but you can swap places with another character temporarily and wait till you have an opportunity to heal that other character. Or some characters have abilities where like you can do more damage if you come from the back row. And at first I was confused by that because I'm like, what do you mean come from the back row? You can't select it. But I found out, oh no, it just means that you selected a different character and then you swap to the next character and then use them. And if you use an ability that that character has, then it counts as attacking from the back row. So there's like things you can do that kind of add a little strategy to it. So that's cool and stuff. And I thought like, okay, this is really cool because all 8 characters are there the whole time. You don't have to worry about like leveling up, like, oh, I ignored this character, but now to get part of the story thing, I need to like grind to get this character up to the right level and stuff. It's like, well, you don't really have to do that anymore. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. The problem is there's like another 30 characters, 35 characters, I think, total in this game that you can swap between. Thankfully, you can swap them at any time. You don't have to go to an inn to swap them like in the past game. But it's still like an issue where you have items and they're scarce. So you have like a piece of armor and it's scarce. If you're not using that character, you're taking that item off of them and equipping it to another character. Well, you want to switch to another character now, you gotta like re-equip them. It just becomes kind of a pain in the butt. Thankfully, at least they're all leveling up together. And you can like, there's a town building aspect of this game. And once you unlock a certain aspect of that, even outside of the 8 characters in your main party, your front and back row, all the characters that you have besides that, you can have them leveling up alongside you by like being equipped to like a dojo or something. And then, and you can swap them in at any time and use them. So like that works so much better than it did in the past games. But a lot of this game just feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
They solved an issue that was long-standing with the franchise, but then they created another one. God, why can't they just nail this like just right? You know, like they did so much like interesting stuff that they added in that makes up for shit that didn't work in the past games, but then they created something else that like just makes it a pain in the ass again in a different way.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah. As I mentioned, there's also like a late post-game kind of difficulty spike that's kind of frustrating. Some people might really dig that. To me, it's kind of annoying because it's like, I just want to finish the story and now I have to make sure you have to use every single character in the final boss run. So I'm like, now I have to like get 35 characters like properly equipped. It's like, oh, jeez, this is going to take like hours just to like equip the characters. That's not even like playing the game. That's just menus. So it's kind of like, oh, this is like frustrating. I kind of just wish I just had the 8 characters and that was it. And that they were always with me and always in my party. And there's also, I talked about inconsistencies. Sometimes I would go and I'm like, oh, there's a quest in this area. And I'd go in there and I couldn't find out how to initiate the quest. I'm like, why can't I initiate it? And then I found out later, oh, you have to have a certain character in your party. But other times I would initiate a quest where I wouldn't have a character in my party, but they would just pop up and start talking and being part of the quest anyways, even though they weren't in my party that I was using. So it's like inconsistent. It's like, if you can do that, then why are you making me put them in my party for this other quest? Like, why can't I just do it the way I did it with that other quest where I didn't have to do that? So I think that's like the biggest issue with this game for me is it's just so wildly inconsistent.
Right.
And I think a lot of that comes because, as I said, this was a mobile game that became a real boy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of mostly what I talk about. The last thing I want to talk about is that one of the things I really like about this franchise in general is that there's a lot of ways to kind of break the system. I love games that let you do that. Disgaea lets you do that. At first, I was a little annoyed that it seemed like my favorite way to break the system in the first 2 games, like, really wasn't in play here. But then I found out, oh, it's just because they added in different ways you could do that.
Right.
And so if you're playing the game and you're early on and you're like, oh, I can't do that, like, crazy random dance with the dancer character that, like, attributes random effects that could, like, wipe your whole party or, like, give you times 99 job points, you know, if you finish them up. And you don't know what you're gonna get, but you can, like, do these crazy-ass random effects that could greatly help you or greatly hurt you and just break the game wide open if you use them right. And it's like, that's kind of gone in this game. There are other things that let you kind of do stuff like that. And it kind of works better in a less frustrating way. So I think that works well for it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Octopath Traveler 0. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm like, I think 150 hours or something in. As I said, I'm right at the end. I just gotta do a lot of menu surfing before I get into the final battles and stuff. But yeah, that's Octopath Traveler 0. It is a long-ass turn-based RPG that can be incredibly beautiful or incredibly boring looking or very inconsistent, as I said, like in every way. But it's when it hits, and it's I've been enjoying it.
Nice.
But that is it for our On Tap segment and it for our podcast this week. One last detail we need to go over before we end the show, and that is what's coming up next week. Next week, we are going to do the Baba Yaga follow-up. So we do these Baba Yaga effect episodes every so often where we take a John Wick movie and then we pair it up with like another movie that's kind of in that same style. Like it's like another lore-heavy action movie with a character that was like out of the life and is dragged back in. Kind of the John Wick formula, but applied to other things. And we've always paired it with another one. So we did like, John Wick 2, and I think we paired that with like Nobody. And I think we did John Wick 3, and I think we paired that with like Violent Night, so we've always paired them together with things. Well, two of the ones that we have previously paired John Wick movies with, Sisu and Nobody, have both had sequels. And so we said, let's do the Baba Yaga follow-up. And we're going to, instead of doing a John Wick movie and another different random movie that kind of follows the same format, we're going to do these two sequels to ones that we've covered previously in this way. And that's going to be our show next week. It's going to be Nobody 2 and Sisu Road to Revenge, which are both available right now on Netflix. So you can check those out and tune in next week as we talk about those two. But until next week, thank you everybody for listening. You can follow me on Blue Sky and Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will on those platforms. He is at Foxo Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.blogspot.com. If you go to our website and open up a container store for any of our podcast episodes and scroll down to the bottom paragraph, you'll find all of the relevant links to our SoundCloud page, our RSS feed, all that stuff's there. You can subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast client of choice like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast as well as additional content is available on our YouTube channel as well, so check that out too. Until next week, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.